The morning light was soft and golden across Willowbrook Village. Patches of gentle rain still drifted in the air, causing dewdrops to glisten on the leaves. Each droplet was like a tiny jewel, reflecting the soft glow of the rising sun. Clara snuggled deeper into her blanket as the rain outside tapped a quiet rhythm on the roof. Birds chattered sweetly in the garden outside her window, and a distant bell chimed calmly in the hour before dawn. Clara yawned and stretched, feeling warm under her quilt. She rose quietly from her bed and tiptoed across the wooden floor of her cozy room. Outside, the countryside stillness seemed to hold its breath in the early morning. Clara paused at the window, feeling the cool air on her face and listening as a far-off moo from a cow told her the farm was awakening. Clara snuck a peek through her curtains at the dew-soaked garden, noticing hydrangeas and hollyhocks still wet and glistening. A red robin hopped along the fence, looking for breakfast among the blooms. Clara smiled at the little bird, feeling lucky to start such a beautiful day. She padded downstairs toward the kitchen where a fire still glowed softly in the brick hearth. Clara was used to these quiet mornings. Often she helped her father carry buckets of water from the well or swept the old wood floor. But today she felt especially cozy with the memory of rain. The cottage smelled of freshly baked bread and warm cinnamon porridge. A wooden table was laid with a jug of milk and a bowl of strawberries, and the morning light made the room feel as inviting as a hug. Clara's mother had been up early, stirring porridge on the stove, humming a gentle tune as the kettle began to sing on the hob. Clara poured herself a cup of chamomile tea, savoring the gentle floral scent as steam curled upwards. The kettle had stopped whistling, blending into the quiet comfort of the morning. Her mother, wrapped in a thick woolen shawl, hummed softly as she stirred the porridge. She looked up and smiled when Clara entered, her eyes kind and warm. Flames danced behind the iron stove, and a tabby cat purred on a chair by the hearth. Clara poured herself a ladle of porridge and sat beside the window, watching steam drift like tiny clouds into the air. In the kitchen's warmth, the morning felt safe and sweet. Clara savored each bite, and then offered some to the cat, who nibbled happily as he stretched. After breakfast, Clara decided to help her mother with the morning chores. Clara cleared the dishes and washed them clean in the basin, humming softly. Finch hopped around her feet, pecking gently at any stray crumbs. Once the table was clear, Clara noticed that the basket of laundry was waiting to be folded. She and Finch carried the laundry basket outside together, hanging sheets in the gentle breeze. Finch chirped happily at each sun-warmed sheet, and Clara laughed as each billowing cloth flapped overhead. Then she remembered the task left undone: feeding the hens. Clara grabbed a small bowl of corn from the pantry and went outside. She scattered grain into the chicken run, and soon the hens were clucking excitedly around her, pecking at the kernels. Finch hopped along the fence, observing the busy birds with amusement. He fluttered his tiny wooden wings as if joining in their song. Finch hopped to the edge of the run and watched the busy birds with amusement. After the hens were fed, Clara tidied up the coop, picking up stray feathers. She then carried a pail to the barn, where 2 gentle goats waited. Clara milked the goats for fresh milk, humming a soft tune as the goats nuzzled her. Finch perched on the railing of the stable door, listening to the rhythmic sounds of the barn. With her chores done, Clara and Finch shared a satisfied smile. Outside, a gentle drizzle scattered soft patters on the cobblestone paths of Willowbrook. The air smelled of damp earth and fresh hay, mingling with the light fragrance of wildflowers. Clara walked through the morning mist toward the village square, a wicker basket on her arm. Each step felt soft against the mossy path, and a few warm rays of sunlight began to push through the clouds, dappling the ground at her feet. A fat wood pigeon cooed from a nearby tree, and a pair of sparrows flitted overhead, chattering a cheerful morning greeting. The chickens and kittens of the village followed along nearby. By the time Clara reached the square, the market was lively even in the early hour. Cloth tents in faded blues and greens snapped gently in the light breeze. Baskets of apples and jars of honey were stacked on wooden tables, and a stray dog lay napping in a patch of sunlight. Villagers bustled from stall to stall, and the cheerful clatter of conversation filled the air. A baker in a flour-dusted apron called out the day's first special: fresh honey cake and warm spiced buns. Clara smiled and paused to inhale the sweet aroma. Her mother had sent her with a basket of eggs to trade for fresh bread and butter. Clara carried the basket carefully, feeling the rough weave of the wicker against her fingertips. Inside, a dozen brown eggs nestled in straw made the basket pretty heavy at times, but Clara managed with determination. She greeted familiar faces as she walked among the stalls, nodding to Mrs. Carver the butcher and Mr. Wren the old beekeeper. A child next to a flower stall handed her a small red rose, and Clara tucked it behind her ear with a grin. Clara stepped up to the bakery stall. The baker greeted her warmly and exchanged the basket of eggs for a loaf of crusty bread and a wedge of butter. Clara thanked him and promised to return. She looked around at the market. A fruit seller piled ripe pears and peaches. A farmer displayed fresh corn, and a herbalist sold bundles of lavender and chamomile. Clara felt content with her morning errands done. She turned and started home, humming a happy tune with Finch chirping along. Back at home, Clara carried the bread and butter into the kitchen. She heard the soft thump of books and pencils on paper coming from the next room. Finch fluttered up to the dinner table. Curious, Clara followed and found her room exactly as she had left it. The friendly carved bird sat upright on her desk, looking oddly alert. Suddenly, the eyes of the wooden bird twinkled. "What? Who said that?" Clara stammered. Her heart pounded in surprise. She leapt back as if she had been stung. The bird's little beak opened. "Oh, sorry," came a gentle, crackly voice. "It was me. It's only Finch." Clara rubbed her eyes. Finch, still on her desk, gave a small bow. "You can talk," Clara whispered with awe. The bird puffed up its chest proudly. "And you can hear me, too," he chimed. Clara couldn't help but laugh softly. "I thought you were just a carving," she said, nervous excitement in her voice. Finch gave a soft chuckle. "I carved this one myself a long while ago," said Tomlin, the wood carver, in the doorway. It turned out an old friend of the family had left it with her mother for safekeeping. Clara smiled at Tomlin. "Thank you," she said shyly. "Welcome," Tomlin said kindly, and he gave his old tools a tidy arrangement on his bench. Finch tilted his wooden head. "Names are tricky," he said with a soft laugh. "But for now, You can call me Finch, or Bertie, if you like." Clara giggled. "Finch? I like that." She gazed at her new friend in wonder. Finch puffed up proudly. "I must say, it's not often a wooden carving finds a sister," he joked gently. Clara felt a warm flutter of happiness. "You're kind of amazing," she said softly, smiling at Finch. Finch pretended to blush and bobbed his little wings. "And you, dear Clara, are the best friend I could ask for," he said in a tone filled with kindness. Clara carefully reached out and touched Finch's smooth feathers. The wooden bird did not feel cold at all, but somehow comfortingly warm. Clara and Finch spent the afternoon talking in hushed voices. Clara told Finch about life on the farm, her chores, and her dreams. Finch shared gentle jokes and stories of other curious things he had seen around town. At one point, Clara brought a piece of bread from breakfast and offered it to Finch. He chirped happily and pretended to nibble at it with his tiny wooden beak. Later, when Clara brought out a sketchbook to draw, Finch perched on her shoulder. With a friendly swoop, Finch knocked a pencil off the desk, prompting Clara to sit up straighter and notice. "Oh ho," Finch chuckled. "Looks like you need a hand." Together, they filled the afternoon calmly. Clara made a little perch for Finch, and Finch gave pointers, mostly by singing a hummed tune while Clara sketched quietly. By the time they heard the kettle whistle for tea, Clara couldn't stop smiling. That evening, after putting the dishes away, Clara found Finch perched cheerfully by the fire. "Thank you for rescuing me, Finch," said Clara softly. "Rescuing you? I hardly felt in danger," Finch replied with a twinkle in his wooden eye. Clara hugged the bird gently. "I mean, thank you for being here," she said. Finch blinked his painted eyes. "Oh, well, I'm happy to stay. Promise I'll never leave you alone." Clara felt her eyes grow heavy with warmth and contentment. "Promise," she whispered back. By the time the sun began to set, Clara and Finch felt pleasantly tired from their day of chores and baking. The apple pie was cooling on the windowsill, and the sky outside turned soft shades of purple and pink. Clara sat by the fire with Finch perched on her knee as her mother read aloud from a book of poems and lullabies. The household cat, Whiskers, curled up beside Clara's chair and purred along. Clara stroked the cat's head gently, sharing a smile with her mother. When the last lullaby was done, Clara's mother kissed her on the forehead. "Time for bed, sweetheart," she said. Finch fluttered up to Clara's shoulder. "We'll have a wonderful night, little one," Clara said, turning off the lamp. They went up the stairs together, a peaceful quiet in the cottage. Clara tucked herself into her quilt and carefully placed Finch on the nightstand. "Good night, Clara. Rest well," Finch whispered as Clara's eyes grew heavy. The night outside was calm and still, the moon casting a gentle glow through the window. Wrapped in the cozy warmth of home and friendship, Clara drifted into a peaceful sleep, already dreaming of tomorrow's gentle sunlight and the adventures it would bring. Later that morning, after finishing the household chores, Clara and Finch set off to explore a nearby glade under the brightening sky. The scent of wild mint filled the air as they walked past a patch of shrubs, and Finch settled contently on Clara's shoulder. Outside, a light mist lingered above the grass, and the forest air smelled fresh and green. Finch chirped cheerfully on Clara's shoulder, pointing out the colors of early spring flowers and the way the dew made the grass shimmer. Sunlight barely touched the tops of the pine trees as they wandered beneath the dappled leaves. There was a hush in the glade, broken only by Finch's soft comments and the occasional rustle of a bunny in the underbrush. Clara spread a small quilt on the grass and sat down with Finch beside her. They snacked on bread, talking quietly and laughing together. Finch told a silly story about a hedgehog who tried to wear a hat, and Clara giggled at his animated retelling. After a while, Clara noticed something near a clump of daisies. Peeking out was a tiny chick, barely bigger than her thumb. It looked lost and peeped anxiously. "Oh, sweetheart," Clara said gently. She carefully scooped up the chick. "It must be a little chickling from Mrs. Hart's farm." Finch fluttered down to inspect. "We should help it," he agreed. Clara nodded. They followed the path back toward the farm fields, the chick safely cradled in Clara's hands. The evening sun slanted golden through the trees, and Clara's heart felt warm as she realized this small creature was now in very safe hands. When they reached the farmhouse, Mrs. Hart was searching near the chicken coop, worried and calling out. "Your little Clara found this," Clara said, holding out the chick. "It wandered out of our yard." Mrs. Hart took the chick gratefully. She thanked Clara profusely. Clara beamed with happiness. On their walk home, Finch hummed a quiet tune, and Clara hummed along. By the time the sun began to set, Clara and Finch felt pleasantly tired from their day of chores and baking. The apple pie was cooling on the windowsill, and the sky outside turned soft shades of purple and pink. Clara sat by the fire with Finch perched on her knee, as her mother read aloud from a book of poems and lullabies. The household cat, Whiskers, curled up beside Clara's chair and purred along. Clara stroked the cat's head gently, sharing a smile with her mother. Clara then cleared the table once more, ensuring everything was tidy. Finch fluttered up to Clara's shoulder, ready to settle in for the night. Clara nestled beneath her quilt and placed Finch on the nightstand next to the lamp. "Sweet dreams, Clara," Finch whispered as Clara's eyes grew heavy. The night outside was calm and still, and a soft breeze rustled the curtains. The gentle rhythm of Finch's lullaby and the distant calls of night birds mingled, a final serene melody to end the day. Willowbrook settled into quiet slumber, and Clara and her wooden bird companion dreamed of tomorrow's gentle sunlight and the adventures it would bring.